Okay. We are we are live. Great.
Good evening.
Evening, Ray.
Hey guys.
Hey, Alex.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Got a big topic on the meeting today, so lots of stuff to talk about.
Can you guys still hear me okay, by the way? Cool.
Hey Alex, hi Ray, hi Michael.
Hey, Stacy.
Nice day.
How's it going?
It's been a day of it. It's the third Thursday, so nonstop meetings. Seems to be a popular day, but it's all good.
Awesome. We'll just slap one more on here, and depends on how fast you guys get through this. I've budgeted 2 solid hours of my evening here, but I'm hoping we can resolve this faster. Really depends on how much we go back and forth. So
Back on the leases.
yeah, it's Lisa's. That's the
Oh, I
question.
see. I budgeted half an hour and then I'm leaving. So
That would be great if we could accomplish that. That would be incredible. But I don't know. I just every
I'm
time
not actually joking, Michael. I have basketball tickets. So
good go leave.
You're not leaving.
Get out of here.
I it's a conflict of interest for me to have too much say in the leases. So I figured, well, I might as well go to the games.
I agree. That's a good idea.
Well, I
Gotcha.
can't vote anymore either, so I can't help too much or offer too much.
All right.
Chris.
So let me just. All right. So we are recording. I'm just going to share this screen. So we have.
We have a quorum because there's 4 of us.
Is everyone virtual or is anybody at the town hall?
Everybody's virtual, as far as
Okay.
I can tell. I've received no emails from people saying that they're coming to town hall. So I went home and
Okay.
I'm remotely.
Okay.
We did way back in, I want to say January, talk about this potentially being a meeting for all of us. But I don't think that happened. Why is this not working? I'm sharing my screen
We see it.
for the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's on.
All right. Well, whenever you want to get started, Stacy.
Yeah, I will call the meeting to order. I lost my clock because it's in full scan at 5:31 p.m. So the first item of business is somebody willing to take notes for the meeting, please. Jeopardy music cue now.
If you can wait about 10 minutes, I would be happy to do it, but I had it.
We hear that you're headed somewhere and that we need to wait 10 minutes. So we will take notes in the interim and share them with you. And
I mean, have somebody else take them for a little while and then I can follow up.
okay, we will do that, and we appreciate you volunteering. Thank you, Chris. And drive safely or travel safely, whatever it is you're up to. So the first thing is approval of the minutes from the 9/21/23, the September meeting. If anyone wants to link that in your packet and take a look at it. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I move we accept them.
Thank you, Ray.
I'll second it if it's okay to do because I intend to abstain. I was not at the meeting.
Sure, that's fine.
Sure. I don't think parliamentary procedure necessarily precludes that.
Yeah.
So seeing as there's only 4 of us, Alex, do you accept the motion in the second?
I do accept the word. I didn't know if I could anymore because I know my status changed, so I wasn't like sure what that ultimately means. But I was like, okay, cool.
No, you're exactly as normal member.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep.
All right, is next thing, so thank you, motion passes, thank you all. Next thing on the agenda is the opportunity for public comment. Does anyone have comments as a member of the public? Or conversely, Michael, have we received any public comment?
I have received no public comment. We have Wyndham Food here. Hey, how's it going? You are on mute. So
Oh, that's Melanie. That's wonderful. Hi, Melanie.
Hey guys, sorry I'm jumping in late. Yeah, I was just gonna rename myself. I've got another meeting at 6, so I'm gonna have to leave a little bit early, but I wanted to pop in and at least help out while I can.
Fantastic. I'm gonna note that you're here as of 5:34.
Okay.
So no public communications. Everybody loves everything we're doing, maybe. Or maybe not. But they're not talking to me about it.
Excellent. Well, if it's really bad, we would have known about it already.
I'm
So
sure.
we'll just
Yeah.
keep
No
moving.
news is good news.
Any old business from any committee members that you want to bring forward tonight? All right, seeing none, we will have old business to bring back at some point, but we'll do that another time. Approval of, oh gosh, I just jumped myself way back up. So new business, we need to adopt the 2024 meeting schedule. So I'm gonna go back. I had that up. So what we're looking at right now is January 18th, March 21st, May 16th, July 18th, September 19th, and November 21st next year. So if that seems, it's the schedule we were on for 2023, but it needs to be put officially into the town records. And so if that seems acceptable, we need a motion and a second, and then the committee vote before that can be sent through the.
I'll move we approve the meeting schedule.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, Chris and Alex. Is there any discussion? And just because we have a schedule, I'll discuss, even though I don't think I'm supposed to, but just because we have a schedule doesn't mean we can't have a special meeting at some point. So say we don't have a meeting scheduled for August, but we decide to do something with the farmer's market in August, we could schedule a special meeting. So we can always add another one in if we need to.
And we can always cancel as we do. It's just statute says we have to publish meeting schedule. Something about letting people know when we're convening. So
I'll make the comment that I think the every other month schedule is great.
yeah, for the amount of workload that at least I have from a staff side that I see accumulating, I feel like every other month works. And if we have to skip a month or adjust into one of the months around it, it's normally workable.
Yeah, I agree.
I also want to note that Terry Wolin has arrived as of 5:35.
Thank you and welcome, Terry. All right, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the 2024 Agriculture Committee meeting schedule. All those in favor, please or any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, motion passes. Thank you all. So Michael, can I update the order a little bit? Could we just do the post-mortem for Celebrate Mansfield before I recuse myself and leave the meeting?
Absolutely.
All right, so we're gonna go to.
Technically, we should have you should make a motion to adjust the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Move 6 before 5B.
Can somebody make a motion, because I can't do that as chair, to move the Taste of Celebrate Mansfield post-mortem ahead on the agenda, please? You can say so moved, because I know I didn't articulate that well.
So moved.
Thank you, Ray. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Alex. Any further discussion? I am just, for full disclosure, for those of you who are joining, C. Stearns is my uncle and T. Stearns is my brother, so hence I will not be involved in the ag lease discussion. So.
Do you mean entirely or just on that one property?
Oh, they applied for 7 out of the 8 properties.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
So it makes it kind of hard for Stacy to weigh in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
I think I'll just go to the basketball game and enjoy it, Chris, and you guys will
Is
have a
that
lovely
why there's
time.
so much traffic here? I was wondering what the hell was going on.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, you
Yeah,
won't
so
get
it does.
home. Yeah, it started ages ago. So all those in favor of moving Celebrate Mansfield postmortem up on the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, motion passes. So I did not attend, which is part of the reason I'd like to hear the postmortem. How did it go, everyone?
I think it went really well. Setup was clean and everything we needed was there. People enjoyed the game that we set up with the different vegetables and fruits and stuff from Connecticut. A lot of interest. People took apples. A lot of people stopped by. Weather was great. There was a lot of attention. Cleanup was quick and easy. I think it went really well.
Do you have suggestions for next year?
Oh,
I mean, things learned and things you would want to repeat, things you'd want to change.
the tent and everything was set up was great. We had plenty of help. The location was great. I guess the only thing you don't want to think about a little sooner is like some kind of an activity. But the game went well, and that attracted people. And we were right there in the front, so we could just like engage people as they came. So I was there from start to finish. So I just a little thought, earlier in the year, but other than that, I mean, everything went pretty smoothly, I think.
I mean, was there, the name is there, the whatever, but is it, and people play the game. What do you think they're walking away with?
Well, we gave them a voucher for something at the farmer's market.
Nice.
We quickly exhausted those. I mean, those were going real quick, but people didn't care. I mean, a lot of people came just to play the game, just to try it out. And you'd be surprised how many people, even though it said on the bottle "Made in Connecticut" or whatever, they still didn't get it. So they were really, it was interesting. It was all ages too. A lot of older people, a lot of younger people, a lot of UConn students. They would try it, and they had no expectation of getting anything. It was just fun.
Uh-huh.
That's good.
Yeah, I believe so.
That's great. I agonized over the food choices. I'm like, what do people know about what's grown locally? Like, how much does the person who doesn't think about farming all day know about what grows around here and what doesn't? So I'm glad that it was at least like a little bit challenging and people were entertained.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
Great.
Well, and definitely, Ray, I think we should think about it sooner for next year. And as soon as we have a date, Michael, maybe we could get it on everybody's calendars. I realize September is hard. And I always seem to have a conflict in September, but if we can, think about how we want representation and give ourselves a little bit more time to think about that activity. And if there's a call to action or something else that we want people to do, or as Chris says, a educational learning objective for it, that'd just give us enough time if we were thinking about it in our summer, late spring, early summer meetings, to do that.
We were next door to a Taste of Mansfield, and that was one you'd want to do that again.
Yeah. So
That's a really good
ability
point.
to do that.
Yeah.
Right,
Most
with you
of-
on that. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was gonna say a lot of the rockiness of this was just my first year in Mansfield, not knowing the calendar of when things come up. But I will definitely make sure we get a little bit on top of it next year.
Well, and now that we've got Ray also serving on the Taste of Mansfield committee as our Mansfield Ag Committee representative, there might be a way that our two booths could tag team or build off of that.
Yeah, I think we'll do that,
educational
yes.
activity.
Great idea.
And then, I mean, I know we both did apples, but it could be, learn this thing at the Ag Committee booth and then do this thing at Taste of Mansfield or vice versa, whatever it happens to be.
I have to begrudgingly say that although I lived in town for 42 years, I haven't gone for 20. So I was really impressed with the whole thing in general. But now that I've been to it, it's not foreign to me anymore. So definitely next year we'll be ready to go.
Cool.
Get your tickets now. That's good.
Any further discussion on the Celebrate Mansfield postmortem?
Okay, I'll just comment that I can now take notes.
Okay, great. Well, I will just send you or you can send me the stuff for the second half, and I'll stop typing away at my keyboard.
That'd be great. Okay.
All right, so I think the next thing is the ag land lease review materials and then the actual applications. And Michael, I'm
You
assuming
can-
I should just recuse myself for the whole thing and
Yeah,
exit.
I think that's probably that's probably for the best, just because of your direct familial relation. The one thing you should do before you leave the meeting is you should nominate a chair to serve in your stead. I don't believe we have a vice chair, so we will need you to nominate someone to serve as interim chair when you depart. So
Chris and
I'd like
Terry.
to nominate Terry. I mean,
Okay.
I'd like to recommend that you nominate Terry.
Oh, I was gonna nominate Terry because you and he are the longest standing members, and I just roped you into the secretary role for this meeting. So, Terry, are you okay with serving as chair while I exit the meeting? Is Terry still there?
I see Terry's name, but I don't hear you.
Well, it was a nice idea anyway to get him to do it.
He knows what to do, just be quiet.
Melanie's also gone.
Yeah, Melanie has another meeting tonight. Ray or Alex, are either of you interested in?
It's very simple. I'll walk you through it.
Yeah, that'd be great. I can be the nominal chair if you want to do that.
And
Okay,
I'll just keep taking notes then, as opposed to you also.
That'd be great. That'd be terrific. So I'm not doing that at all. Okay. My only challenge is I'm just on my iPhone, so I'm gonna need to be able to see the agenda.
We only got one item left, really. It's the ag land leases and then adjourning.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, good.
So
Right,
Michael,
so-
will you just make sure that the notes reflect that I left the meeting, and I will see you all in January, and thank you very much
Yep.
and happy holiday.
take care, Stacy.
Thanks, Stacy.
Serve as chair. All right, very well, Mr. Chair. Now that you are serving as our new brave leader, those who are in attendance at the meeting need to have a discussion about the ag land leases. So I am just
Yeah, and I'd like to hand it over to you to give us your summary and what you've done in terms of these, what kinds of responses we've gotten, and other relevant information.
Absolutely. So just to run down, we have a decision-making body of 3 here today. Terry is starting to connect to audio, I see. So perhaps we will have 4 people. That will be really good. The ag land leases we got back for our 8 fields. We got back a bunch of applications, but not quite 2 per field. So I believe we have 16 in total, 2 for Bone Mill, 3 for Common Fields, 2 for Coventry, 3 for Crane Hill, only 1 for Eagleville, 2 for Mount Hope, 3 for Southworth, 3 for Torrey. So we're looking at about 20 different applications here from a total of 4, 5, 6 people. So what I did is I put the individual applications that these were filled out as into the application sheet. And I also wrote down I gave the review and assessment sheet, which breaks down for each field who applied, what the lease looks like as the sample, again, so we all remember. And then the last time this was done, we had interviews with people that we thought might be good for these fields. I provided the interview questions that were done last time. To provide some of my early thoughts, several of these people have been working our fields for a long time. The Stearns family has, and Mr. Tom Wells and Mr. Bill Varga have been working fields rent from the town for a long time, have a record of stewardship. We also received applications from Tim Stearns, who is, I guess, striking out on his own, is the way he writes it, and running his own operation, as well as one Mr. Enamel Hake and one Mr. Bergeron. Mr. Hake applied for pretty much every field, and his operation seems, it's intriguing, but it is also somewhat unusual. So most of our applicants are proposing either to grow corn or hay on these fields, often as feed for animal. Mr. Hake wants to do hyacinth bean. I don't know anything about hyacinth bean cultivation, but I am under the assumption that it is a bit more complicated. We really have to talk to him about how he would intend to do this. He's written down a dollar value on each sheet, which I believe means he's willing to pay the town for the right to rent the field each year. However, I was not very impressed with his answers to the questions. They felt very much like copy pastes to me. And he has emailed me several times, but I don't believe he has the best grasp of English, which can make communication difficult. And since this is a lease of public land, that worries me. So if the committee is at all intrigued by the gentleman's operation, we definitely want an interview with him. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Other than that, most people are proposing to do hay and corn cultivation, except for Mr. Bergeron, who works some fields next door to the Crane Hill field and does vegetable cultivation. He's intending to do vegetable cultivation on the Crane Hill field. I know he was in talks to also buy a house adjacent to this property. I don't know if that eventually went through, but that is the full story. So Jennifer and I did some preliminaries of going through these and seeing who's got what fields, who's applied for what. There's a couple of people who've only applied for one thing. Mr. Bergeron only applied for the Crane Hill field. Mr. Varga only applied for the Mount Hope field. Other people have applied for a lot more fields. So we have 8 fields that are up for cultivation and only 6 applicants. I think it's likely that with those numbers, we can give everybody something if we want to. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to. So I guess I'm going to, that's my spiel at the start.
Okay.
What we should do tonight is we should determine who we want to interview, if anybody, and who we want to rule out, if anybody, and then schedule a time where a couple people might be able to come to interviews with myself and the applicant. We're just going to do them by Zoom. So if you can find 30 minutes in the middle of your day, we can do these over the course of a week and then come back and reconvene a quick special meeting to say, all right, let's do this.
Can you just review on Wells? Has he leased land before from us?
Tom Wells has leased land before from us. Yes,
Okay.
the 3 fields that he's applied for are fields he's currently leasing.
That's what I
So
thought.
he's
Okay.
currently leasing the common fields, as well as Torrey and South.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we looked at those. I remember that now. Okay, good.
I do have, I forgot to attach it to this calendar actually, but I do have one letter of support for the adjoining property owner to Torrey Preserve, saying that they've had a great time working with Tom Wells, going over their land because they have access over that land to Torrey Preserve, and that Mr. Wells has given them no problems and they were happy that he was working the land over there. So that is a consideration for that one. But very little public input from these as well. That's really the only item I have for public input.
Did all the incumbent people reapply?
Yeah, yes. So if you look at the, I'm going to pull it up here, the review and assessment sheet. I'm going to stop my share. Hey, Terry. So
You muted, Terry.
looking at the review and assessment sheet here, Coventry Field wasn't.
Information, what you're showing right now?
Can you see I just
I
started.
can.
So the information that's on the screen is this is the spreadsheet for our lease applications review.
Okay.
And this shows both the current lessee and the applicants. Oh, did this not? So I didn't put Mr. Hake on here because I believe Mr. Hake applied for everything. But we think we have all the current lessees on this sheet. So Coventry Road didn't have anyone previously working it. And otherwise, we have 3 fields currently being cultivated by Mr. Stearns, 3 by Mr. Wells, and 1 by Mr. Varga. Now, of course, we've had some more applicants. There's now 2 Stearnses, Mr. Bergeron applying for Crane Hill, and then if I pull up my optional application here, Mr. Hake applied for every one of our fields. So we have a lot more to do in the way of decision making. And I'm open to, let me just, this was,
Well, may I make some comments?
absolutely, you
Okay.
are the chair.
And I'm inviting other people too in my pretend role of chair. But I think our general objective is to encourage people to be farming. So as appealing as it is to just say, oh, this is great, let's go with the easy one and give it all to the Stearns because they, either one of them or both of them or whatever it would be. I think we want to have more people farming than fewer people farming. And these are, some relatively small fields and so forth. So where we can, I would like to imagine we can, again, have more people trying different things and seeing if it works for them. So, my biases are the 2 that have been the 2 single places, the 2 people that have been doing single places, which as I see it is Varga and Bergeron. Have those gone well would be our first question. Are we happy with what they've been doing? And would we then want to renew those? And then look beyond those. So I think in my mind, I just want to put those 2 aside, and then think about the others.
All right, so I'm just going to mark
Unless
these
I'm
off.
missing something that
Just going to mark those in yellow based on that
Mhm.
comment of those are fields where there's one person who's applied for only those fields. What I can tell you about those fields, so I'm not I haven't been a long resident in Mansfield, but I can tell you that Mr. Varga is a very active warden of that field. We use it very intensely and likes to make sure it's well cultivated. Mr. Bergeron, from what I can tell, is a small farmer, but he's been working the land in the area, if not this lot, for years. He's got a small farmers market that he goes over to the bowling alley. I think he has those pop-up tables at the bowling alley and he sells out of there. So he's in the community as well and is really hoping to expand his operation. So I have nothing but good things to say about either of them.
and back on Bergeron, is he using all of the the land as you would expect it to be used were you to be the owner? Meaning, is he, really taking full advantage of the property?
So to clarify, so Mr. Bergeron currently cultivates some fields next to Crane Hill. Crane Hill is currently cultivated by the Stearns.
Okay.
The Stearns currently have the cultivation of Crane Hill field. But Mr. Bergeron has some fields next to it that he rents, and he is looking to gain the lease of this one as well.
Got it. How large is that one? Does it say on here?
Crane Hill is, that is a great question. Let me just, I want to say it's about 10 acres. But maybe
And do you
not.
know what he's farming right now?
A much smaller, significantly smaller. I want to say about 2.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
just pull up the-
And we, just as a matter of course, think of these as whole things. And I don't know where the, diminishing returns happens, but we could, when I say whole things, I mean, yeah, it's an entire 10 acres. But what if he were to take 2 acres and the Stearns were to continue with 8 as a, potential scenario? And then, because it does seem to me like even if he only had 5 acres and he was doubling what he had, if he's doing vegetables, that's a ton more. It's a totally different story when you're
That's a lot of production.
doubling that versus
Yeah.
doubling a cornfield.
Yeah, no, very much so. Yeah, so I just confirmed Crane Hill is a 12-acre field. And so the thing is that I don't think there's anything that says we couldn't do that. The only potential issue is that I'm going to have to go back to our attorney to clear that, just in terms of drafting language. He'll want to have clear lines. Knowing him, he's going to say, okay, so you're going to rent 4 acres, so we're going to need the land description of who gets what parts, right? And so I can draw it on the GIS map, but then I'll need to go out there in the field and, put up a string fence or something like that. I'm not saying it's impossible,
Is
but
durability an issue though at all? Like for example, if you have 2 stewards of land and something detrimental happens, or if one negatively impacts another, depending on practices, usage, etc. Someone accidentally uses equipment, and I'm operating from a totally ignorant standpoint, but I don't know these individuals. I just know Varga is active, for example, or it'd be Stearns in this case. I don't know, but I feel like that becomes kind of one of those weird situations of you have 2 people sharing a lot, and if one negatively impacts another, how does that come back to the town potentially, or does it cause a greater issue? Whereas having single steward, is just easier and legally clear. However, to Chris's point, I agree with trying to activate as many farmers as possible. But also that's a ton of acreage. If you're doing like approximately 2 going to 12, I mean, I'm trying to figure out 4 right now, and I mean that's a lot.
Yeah,
And
lot.
if he's small and he doesn't have equipment or whatever it is, do we see the usage of that property being effective to tie it up for whatever duration? I think that's another point. As a quick side note, though, you said it's hyacinth bean for Mr. Hake.
that is, I believe, what his application says.
That is a tropical bean. Like we eat that in India. Like that's 9/11 zone, I think. So I think a question, just I'm digressing a little bit, but just real quick, is then it's a question of what is he expecting to do on that property as far as erecting a structure, greenhouses, or what is he doing? Because tell you what, that's not going to go too well. And then I want to activate new farms as well, but that may not be the best utilization. And over what size of property? I mean, that I have no idea how that would really go. So if he has an execution plan, I'd be curious, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a suspicion that hyacinth was a tropical crop. But the application wasn't particularly forthcoming about how it was going to grow. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. Which is why I am in some ways tempted to not necessarily explore Mr. Hake's application. Just I don't see it as viable right off the bat.
Like that's just leading into a much bigger discussion, and I think it absorbs quite a bit of time to evaluate what is kind of a non-starter concept. Not to be harsh or dismissive in any capacity.
No. I mean, if he had come in with, plans, it's like, we're going to put up these pop-up tents and we're going to do this. We need this much water a day. We're going to truck it in. We're going to do this. We're going to cultivate it that way. And we're going to do it for these months. Then it would be like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Right. But we don't have any of that. So it makes me somewhat suspicious.
I'd like to chime in there just a bit too. And I suffer from a lack of understanding or of the big picture on where these fields are, and perhaps that's my fault for not going around looking at them. And number 2, knowing what each of those individual leasees wants to do and whether it can be done on the amount of acres they have, or is it is that too much to take care of for their kind of operation? I just wonder if in the long run, something downstream for us to think about is there some sort of a analysis that we can do so that we don't come up to this point and say, ooh, how do we slice and dice this to use all the crops and all the people that want to do something? I mean, both of those we want to do, fully utilize the paddocks or whatever they are, and complement the farmer that wants to branch out. I just feel like I'm suffering from a lot of loss, a lot of information I don't have.
In some ways, I kind of feel the same way. Being new to the town, what I can tell you right now is that all of these fields, as they currently are hay or cornfields. All of these fields right now are hay or cornfields, and they range in size from, Bone Mill is 3 acres, Crane Hill is 12, Eagleville Preserve is 10 acres. The Torrey Field is about 3. Southworth is 7. So we're talking in the neighborhood of 2 to 10 acre fields on average that are all right now in corner hay.
May I just add one more comment, and that is in the application process, and I know they've been doing this for years, but in the application process on an annual basis, do they drill down, as you've mentioned, crops? Would 10 acres of hyacinths be a feasible kind of thing? I mean, is there any way for that we can evaluate the farm objectives and their work plan without being too overhanded? I mean, we have a wonderful resource here, and that's available land, and we have people that are eager to do something with it. So I just feel like I don't have the right tools in my hands to say anything unless somebody has some experience with each of those.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to know whether, like the hyacinth, if that's invasive at all. If that's an issue for switching over.
Very valid. I mean, I think the other thing is to Terry's point also is evaluating, or it's kind of post facto, but what resources do they have available? Because someone can be eager, take out a lease and then not have the means, equipment, finance potentially to effectively take care of that land. However, with that being said, just in my, I guess, personal philosophy is diversifying how these lots are used would be beneficial too. So if it's been traditionally just corn, hay, seeing vegetable or produce be entered into that circulation would be nice for at least one cycle, and privileging that somewhat as a good stewardship practice on our part as a town. But yeah, I think looking at their infrastructure, because again, even if they have an execution plan, it turns into this question of how effectively can they execute said plan. And that's getting into the weeds a little bit. So I don't know how we want to handle that, because that's getting granular. That's like doing a business assessment for people.
Yep.
So what we can do, right, is we can just look for a time. If we want to aim for the week after Thanksgiving, right? If we want to aim for the week after Thanksgiving, I send out an email tomorrow morning and I tell everyone who has applied, we'd love to set up a 30-minute Zoom with you, right? Some point during the week, I'll send out one of those doodle polls and be like, give us your times. I'll see who from the committee can come. We want to make sure we have at least 2 people from the committee and myself sitting. And then the following week, what we'll do in December, the first week of December, we'd set up a special meeting where we would have everybody come back and we would have the people at each interview kind of give their thoughts on, like, this is how I felt talking to this person, this is how I felt about their business plan. And what we can do at this meeting instead is we can, because this is a complicated topic, so it's good that we're just like talking about, we don't know, and we don't know what we should ask, and we don't know we have enough decision making ideas here. What we can do though is I'm going to pull up the nope, not that one, it's this one. I'm going to pull up the interview questions right?
Okay, that's
So
good.
the interview questions that we had. So the interview questions that we used in 2014 were to ask people about, agricultural operation experience. What have you done?
Michael, hold on. You're calling them interview questions, but these are really their application questions, right?
No,
Or
so
you-
these are the interview questions that we use. So
Okay.
we have the applications where we ask them to detail certain things, but then we had interview questions where we interviewed certain
Okay.
people and asked them things
Here,
like,
I'm sorry. Keep going. Yep.
what is your business plan? Right? What is your business plan and how does renting this property fit your business plan? What is your stewardship plan? What are you intending to do for this property? How would you use this property? How is your use of this property going to benefit the citizens of Mansfield? How have you ever managed leased agriculture before? What's your experience with that, right? And getting them to say it to us. I think importantly, the first two questions on this are kind of repetitive of their applications, but explaining their business plan to us, be like, okay, what are you actually doing? How is this going to work? We can ask those questions about, okay, so how much do you have now, right? What are you cultivating now? What are you going to go to cultivation? How does that fit with your plan? We can ask, so let me just start writing down these questions that were very good here. Expansion of operations. We've got
I think that for each of the plots, size plots, and perhaps even a description of the plot. In other words, is it sloping or surrounded by trees or something like that? In addition to what the crop is, and how are they going to address or enhance that particular crop on that type of property? Somewhere in the records, there probably is a soil sample, for example. And is it woefully short on nitrogen or whatever?
So we have those soil records.
Could be a little deeper.
Yep. So we have soil records, and you do have to take soil samples each year and provide us with the standard soil strata samples, just to be like, here's what they are. I'm not destroying the soil. Things we
Michael,
can
remind us what the length of the leases is or are.
So it's 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
So it's 5 years, and then we basically renegotiate and say we have to do this process, this long, arduous process, once every 10 years. When we decide who we're giving this to, we give it to them for 5 years, and then at the end of that 5-year period, there's an option for both parties to agree to just extend for another 5.
Okay.
If we're happy. So
we're at the 10-year break now, is what you're saying.
We are at the 10-year right now.
Okay.
We have to go through this. So
Okay.
whoever we get these to are getting them no questions asked for the next 5 years. I mean, technically, if they fail to provide us with soil samples, or if they don't do good stewardship, we can revoke them. But the plan is to hand them to someone for 5 years.
Do we have an accommodation if somebody dies, if one of the farmers dies, or is it disabled in some form, cannot? What happens then? Do we automatically get it back? Is that specified?
Let me just look at our language for our lease. I believe it's a personal lease. It's a good question.
Because in my mind, we are doing it personally. We're leasing it to this person on their word, so forth. And if that were to change because of a change in their situation, it's not the same.
The sample lease language is everything's to be done by the lessee. The lessee is found to be in material default.
Which would happen if they
die, you become in material default because you can't complete the tasks. So yes, in the case of death, it would revert to the town.
Okay.
So there is no law for inheritors.
Okay. All right.
So other things I'm thinking of right now in terms of how we may want to change up the interviews is improvements, right? If you're intending to, you need to bring in water, or you need to bring in electricity, or put up pop-up structures. Because if you're intending to do hyacinth beans in this climate,
To
you
use an
probably
example.
need those things, right? Explaining that would be good. We've got improvements. We've got plot particular plans. We've got you know, your expansion of operations.
I mean, planned amendments to use, like if they're like, because I'm almost wondering, like, for example, just to use this hyacinth example, if you have to heavily like dope the acidity of the soil or something like that, you know, that's something to know. Because I mean, yeah, they're like, oh, I'll send you the soil sample, but we may hold issue with a certain amendment that's being used. And I think another thing to ask too is equipment potentially necessary. Again, I don't think hyacinth would require anything particularly unique, but if for any operation, I'd be curious to ask.
Cool.
So, back to the big picture, I'm gonna ask, I would really like for you to go back to first Bergeron and ask him if it's realistic and interesting to him still, if he were to add 2 acres to his, in other words, that we were to lease him 2 acres. And if he says yes or no, if he says yes, then the next question is going to Stearns and saying, are you interested in 10 acres on that piece? Because I see it, to me, that one belongs to either one of them. It doesn't get hyacinths either way because of the geography. It's close to the Stearns farm. It's adjacent to Bergeron's place. So to me, that's a no-brainer, but I would like to see, you know, the corn's great, but I think we want to feed the people first with vegetables rather than the cows than the people.
Yeah, I think it would be great to see Mr. Bergeron's farm grow. This could be a good boon for him. He is a relatively young farmer. I mean, he's been working the land for a long time, but he's only in his 30s, I think. He's just been farming for 20 years since he was a teenager. On those plots next door.
But when you say, though, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michael, but when you say that it's a 10-year deal, that's that's kind of feels like, oh, so I mean, I would love to have him do 2 acres more if that was appealing to him. And then it worked well, 2 acres more or something like that. But that may become totally unappealing to the Stearns. So
I'll approach. Yeah, so when I set up the interviews, I'll approach both of them and see if they're interested in the potential different split. I'm
and
also
does it geographically make sense? I mean, it practically makes sense, as you suggested before. You got to check.
Yeah, I just have to talk to the attorney, and then I also have to I'm sure we can find a way to make it geographically make sense. It's a big flat field.
Oh, great. Okay.
We can draw a line somewhere.
Great. Yeah, and I think the plot thing and the attorney thing, that's just totally in our minds. We name these things something, and so it's one thing, but in fact, it's divisible.
Yeah, they absolutely are.
Can you show one of the leases again, Mike?
Yeah.
Why don't you show the one we're talking about?
So this is Crane Hill. Oh, no, not that. Hold on. Gonna stop the share for a second. Open.
Did you knit your hat, Michael?
I did not knit this hat. So this hat is a purchased knit hat because my wife was working on a scarf, and I went to the store with her, and I fell in love with this hat. I wish I could knit as well as this. So the one we're talking about right now is Crane Hill Field.
Can you, I'll just scroll down and see how do you identify? Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So Crane Hill, of course, when it comes to the borders like this, these are rough. So when I highlighted it, but it's this very large hayfield right now.
Can you go down further? Is there a legal description in words?
I am sure there is, but I have to check. I don't have the Schedule A on me.
I can
go into the land records. it's important to note. So I'm just going to my mouse here. So this is Mr. Bergeron's fields. It's these 4 front fields and this one
Can you
here.
raise it up a tiny bit?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So this area here, on these 2 parcels, this is what Mr. Bergeron farms. And then this Stearns have their farm over here, I believe.
More to the left, but
yeah.
yeah.
So it's right in the middle of both of them. And I think it's definitely possible to split this. Provide Mr. Bergeron some of this land, and then this rest could stay in that hay. Yeah, I will approach both parties and
Yeah,
see.
I will talk to the attorney first, because it's easy to cut that picture in the line, but the attorney's gonna really squawk about the word, when you have to put that into words. It's
Yeah,
a real problem.
it's possible that because this is not a perfectly straight line, there may be multiple iron pins, which would make it possible
That
to
would be,
create
oh,
a
that would be great.
description, but I
Right.
don't know, and I would have
Yeah.
to check the records.
Yeah,
Well, and
So-
also land access, like, is there multiple points of access into that field?
As far as I know, no. I believe it's just there's a front access here.
Okay.
I will have to look.
Okay.
I gotta go just drive up and down Crane Hill Road for a while and look at the fields. So that is Crane Hill. So to return to I'm just gonna start sharing this monitor because it's gonna make this easier. So to return to the matter at hand, that's Crane Hill. Mount Hope is only currently being cultivated by Mr. Varga. Some of these other fields are more in question.
you had Eagleville, you had Mr. Hake, or whatever you say that on there,
Mr. Hake has offered for every single one of these.
but that wasn't on the agenda, you didn't show us that on the agenda.
Oh, did he not?
It
Ah,
didn't
then
show
he
on the
must not
agenda,
have- He must not have gone for.
or it could have just cut off, it's possible.
Yep, that would be the only one. I thought he had done 8, but it would be 70. I did have all of them on there. So if it wasn't on there, that so
Yeah.
in that case, I think that is correct. The only one that isn't.
What about Baxter Road?
Baxter Road is not currently on the same cycle, so that's
Okay,
cultivated by
that's
Charlie
fine.
Galgowski.
That's enough of an answer. Okay. I'd like to talk, if we could, quickly about Mount Hope.
Sure.
I think it's a quick conversation because that is a public park also, and it's traversed and used a lot by the public and enjoyed a lot by the public. And the hayfield is aesthetically pleasant and practical. I don't know what Hyacinth looks like. Can anybody tell us anything about what Hyacinth is
Mine, I
like?
believe.
Yeah,
If I remember it correctly, it's like purple.
flower.
Okay, there you go.
Yep. So I was looking it up. So it's a bean. Lab
okay, but
bean.
what's can you Google Hyacinth field? There we go.
So it's a bush. It's a bunch
Because
of green
the-
bushes.
You can't hike through that.
No.
Yeah, and then there's a natural, the hay is very appealing to me there because it's a natural cover throughout the entire year. It's productive as well. It's aesthetically pleasing. It's, the guy has been reliable and a good steward and so forth from what we've seen. So in my mind, I'm content keeping Varga as the leasee there.
All right.
I would agree.
I
So-
agree.
What I'll do then is, I think those are reasonable arguments. I think I'm just gonna highlight this in green for Varga for Mount Hope, if everyone's in agreement.
I agree.
I'm gonna highlight Eagleville for Mr. Stearns because he's the only one who's offered to lease it. And he's
Sure.
been leasing it previously, and we've had no problems with the reports.
Right.
Since that's the only one of these where it's uncontested. I will reach out to both Mr. Bergeron and Mr. Stearns about Crane Hill.
Great. Can
Um,
you tell us a little bit about Coventry Road? My impression is that field is pretty overgrown.
Incredibly overgrown, actually. Very much so. So I'm just going to pop up the overview of this one. So it is the front portion of
Oh,
the
wow.
It's a weird looking town parcel. It is just
Oh.
this section along the road here.
And how many acres is the field itself? About
I think it's about
4?
4 acres.
4, you said,
What is
right?
the crop?
Yeah, I think it's about 4.
That
Yeah.
is a hell of a track.
This is incredibly overgrown. In his request for the field, Tim Stearns noted that he has a brush hog and that he's intending to bring in his brush hog, mow it down, and then turn it into hay and corn cultivation. But that he has the equipment to bring it back into active cultivation. It's not in a good shape right now.
I mean, if he wants to take it on,
Yeah, I say
get
give it
more
to him.
aesthetically valuable.
And
Yeah.
he's adjacent there when he's got the equipment and he's got family with more equipment. So I'm all for that one.
Okay.
Although I would also want to be following up on it, you know, and making
Yes.
sure that he is I don't expect him to plant the first season.
No,
But I certainly expect him to begin working on it. He'll never get ahead of it.
Yep. Okay, that's Coventry Road. There we go. That's 4. We've got action plans for 3 of these.
Which one is the smallest one? It's Bone Mill, right?
Bone Mill's quite small. Bone Mill's only, I think, 2.8 acres. So I'll just keep pulling these up because that's what I made
Yes,
all these
most
documents
helpful. This
for.
is good.
Yeah, 2.8 acres. So Bone Mill Field, this is at the corner of 44 and Bone Mill.
That'd be a good one for Bergeron if he could have managed it.
But he's near his house where
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to schlep halfway across town for
Yeah.
a tiny field.
Yeah.
So that's the one I'm just thinking for this Hyacinth, if we find out more positive things about Hyacinth and the risks involved. And to me, the risks are invasive species. Is it invasive? Does it, you know, encourage who knows what kind of butterfly that eats other things, or require amendments?
If Alex's knowledge of Hyacinth being is accurate, I don't imagine it could become invasive because the winter would
Great.
obliterate.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Um,
Yes.
Yeah, he may not, he'll be a non-starter potentially, and it's
Right.
more about you're tying up that lease now for potentially 5 years, you know, and also if depending on his setup and what he wants to do, you have residential property right there. Does it pose any poor interaction with local residents and his neighbors, so to speak? So
Yep. So
I do remember. Go ahead.
I was going to say,
you have to be concerned about like deer and stuff coming in too. I mean, are they gonna just wipe his crop out?
To me, that's his issue.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you'd have to address that.
yeah, I mean that's a risk though, I think, for anyone that's doing
Anything?
any kind of cultivation on any of these lots is, I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna find it. I mean, that's definitely a reality out here.
You're gonna find it.
Yeah.
Yep, Mr. Bergeron in his application did note that if he does vegetables, he would hope to put up a deer fence around his entire enclosed area just to try to save them because vegetables are very attractive to deer.
Mhm.
For Bone Mill,
I'm in.
yes.
Go ahead.
No, after you, Chris.
I'm inclined to think about the Bone Mill lot for Mr. Hake, and do more research on it. And one of the reasons for that is I do remember hearing, again, hearsay, but that, you know, that Bone Mill lot is a long way from the Stearns, you know, where they're going to bring their equipment, where they're going to come back and get stuff and so forth. So, and it's a small field. It's not even, and it's, like you said, it's 3 acres, not a significant size. So I wonder if that's even enough to fill up a truck.
Good point.
But I have no idea.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's, and again, I'd heard that they weren't really psyched about doing that one, or even the one down on Eagleville. But again, I emphasize that was hearsay, not heard from them directly, from any member of the family. So, but anyhow, that's my thinking is let's talk to Hake in more detail and see if we like his detail and see if you like his detail, Michael, about the Bone Mill spot.
Absolutely.
Is he a resident in town?
So his address is listed in Brooklyn, which is New York, which is another interesting part of this.
But we've got a Brooklyn on the other side of Mansfield and Willimantic.
Right.
And maybe it
which
was
is-
Siri auto-correcting.
which is why I thought it might have been a mistake. But when I went over to these, I believe, yep, it's Brooklyn, New York, apartment 2P.
Wow.
Come
Okay,
on.
I
So
stand
I-
corrected.
Okay.
So I don't know precisely what the plan is. But I will reach out to Mr. Hake about Bone Mill.
Yeah, it bears a little explanation to how the process might go forward.
Yeah. But I will do that for Bone Mill.
Emphasizing there's no water.
Right. So then that brings us to the Common Fields, Torrey, and Southworth. So to speak briefly about Torrey, we did have a letter of support from an adjoining property owner for Mr. Wells on the Torrey lot. And that was one of the ones that I think is kind of sensible to give back to him. It's kind of in the middle of one of our preserves. You have to access it partially through another neighbor's lot. So he's already got.
That's the one off of Gurleyville Road.
Yes. So
It's up in we went there on the tour one time.
yeah. So this is
Very
the one.
pretty little.
This one did not have the attached map, but yes, it's a pretty little field. It's very picturesque. It's right along the hiking trail. But yeah, it's right tucked away there. Not very easily accessible. So I think giving that one back to Mr. Wells makes sense.
And its proximity to him is is sensible.
Yes. Then there's Southworth and the Common Fields. So Common Fields are quite large.
Wow.
The Common Fields is 21 acres. It's this field separate over here, and then this oddly shaped field along the front, with access to this wetlands, which can serve as water. Hypothetically, I am the wetlands agent, so lots of caveats. But this is a larger operation. And this can serve as kind of a main center as opposed to Southworth. Southworth is 7 acres over off of Dodd Road. This is tucked over by 195 Stores Road. You turn off onto Chapeyville, immediately
Yeah.
hang right onto Dodd. It's tucked away a little bit there.
And this is also Wells.
These are both wells. So right now,
And
Mr. Wells is
it's all
cultivating
hay?
both. Yep, it's all hay. Cattle feed. So
Well, I'll blow my opinion out. That near water, it feels like hay is a better option than corn. At least as is typically cultivated. I don't know how he does his corn or how Stearns does their corn, but it typically, from what I've seen, is some harrowing and so forth, and leading to, and also fertilizing and very often herbicides, whether or not, I don't know what, I can't remember what we allow or don't allow, but in any event, it just feels like hay is a lot less invasive to this, not to overuse that word, but
Poses
disturbing
less
to the
concern.
soil.
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just pulling up.
And I say that because my assumption is, and Grant, right here, it's an assumption that Stearns wants to grow corn for the most part, and Wells is showing us that he's growing hay.
So the Stearnses are intending to do hay on
Oh, good. Okay.
Common Fields.
Good.
And I'm checking this as well. And then let me find Southworth. the Stearns application is also hay. So
Oh,
it's
good.
hay for
Okay,
both
so
of
it's
the
even
lots.
that way. Yep.
Yeah.
When we make a decision at the special meeting, is that final? Is that it? They don't get any kind of like review rights or?
No, so when this is kind of I'm not gonna say unusual thing, but we are going to recommend to the town council that they
Okay,
utilize these leases in this way based upon interviews, past patterns of use and people's applications. And so really, I think these could go either way. If we were looking at, if you want to look at it from a pattern of who's currently getting what versus who may be losing something. Right now, as we've got it written, right now, Mr. Stearns is working Eagleville and is getting Eagleville. Mr. Varga is keeping the one piece he's working. Mr. Wells keeps one piece. Mr. T. Stearns picks up Coventry. The two fields we're discussing are both owned by Wells, but we're also discussing giving away some or both of the fields that Mr. C. Stearns is still working. So it is potential that I think we may want to not give both of these back to Mr. Wells. I think Mr. Wells, the common fields is huge. And I believe that the common fields being worked by Mr. Wells, changing the ownership of that would be a bigger deal, as opposed to changing the not the ownership, but the lessee of Southworth.
Are we talking about Tom Wells when you?
We are talking about Tom Wells, yes.
Tom Wells. Mhm.
And have we
he-
had any issues with him or with Stearns?
As far as
Performance
I
issues?
know, we have not had issues with their maintenance of the land for either of them, but I'm new to town. Terry, I don't know what you know about people. I can also ask Jennifer. She has been doing this a lot longer than I have, but I have not received any negative reports about their activities.
And one of the things I remember seeing at the Eagleville property, and maybe it's not great for growing stuff, and it's a free field. Hey, let's use it. But that there's just a lot of normal pushing in of the edges. In other words, the edges are growing onto the field more and more, and it didn't feel like. And again, that was from a trip probably 4 years ago. It didn't feel like the farmer, whoever it was doing work to keep that pushed back.
Mhm.
So that's something to consider. Is Wells doing some of that? Is Stearns doing some of that? That to me would be a plus if one or the other were, or both of them are.
Well, we don't have to make this decision today. We can just schedule interviews with both of them.
So Mike, what are you thinking about, like, you gonna do those interviews during the day or in the evening or?
So yeah, I mean, what I'm planning is for everyone we want to interview, we block out a 30-minute time block. We give some times in the day and sometimes in the evening. We see when people can make it. And we want to get them done over the course of the week. Then we'll see where commissioners can go. I'll give you some times, and we need at least 2 people to show up.
Because I'm willing to do it I work at the middle school, so once it's 3:15 and beyond, I'll do it anytime.
Right.
I think the process begs, or the situation begs a bit of a process here, that we need more information. And I'm not a long-term resident, so perhaps some of you just say, oh yeah, I know that field. I don't. And whether it needs attention vis-a-vis invasives or other complications. I just feel like sitting here, I'm not being a very good steward with the process because I don't know that much about it, the properties.
I think we'll know a lot more after we do the interviews. And in the meantime,
Because it gives context to what to look out for too. and what is their capacity to deal with some of the needs on the actual lots themselves if we identify that there's an invasive or something like that.
Terry, I'd be happy to go around with you
Yeah,
and anybody else.
yeah,
I think we must have done this 5 years ago.
Yeah, I
and-
remember getting in a bus or a big van
Yeah.
and going around. And,
Yeah.
and I think it would certainly help us feel more confident in our, let's pick this one or that one.
I like that idea. I'd be willing to go.
All right, so what I'll
can.
do,
I'm good.
I mean, I can, if people want to meet up either this coming week before Thanksgiving, or we could do the week after. I can bring you out to the fields, or you can go by yourselves.
Well, I think the
And-
group discussion would be
Yeah, it would be
more
helpful if
beneficial
possible.
solo. And I'll try to meet I'm fully retired, so I could probably go anytime. So
Yeah, next week I can accommodate. The week after would be difficult because I'm at a client's facility for the week after Thanksgiving, pretty much. So
Okay, so
And
I'll,
what we would want to do along the way is to, in conversation amongst ourselves, pick out the few, say 3, 5, or a couple of parameters that are critically important for making a decision one way or another. And that would be, does this particular farmer get 3 of the 8 and the others less? Or what's their farming style that we like or don't like? Those kinds of things. I don't want to get the ag committee in set up for being in jeopardy, if somebody is critical about our decision process.
well,
But at least it is important. I think it would be important for us to see them and to make those decisions.
Mhm.
absolutely. And of course, I think it's good to try not to have people be critical of you, but that's
it happens. Yeah.
what you got me for. Mr. Kiefter knows very well that the last town council meeting was a little bit heated at times. So, you put people together in a room and discuss anything about town spending or politics, and there will be many different opinions. But
Thank you for being our standard bearer.
I am here to help with that.
So Mike, if somebody is unhappy though, I mean, they're gonna know before it goes to council that they haven't been selected, so.
Yeah.
They'd be given the opportunity to speak to the council and the council's gonna make the final say, so.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately what I think we're going to do is we're going to come out of these meetings and I as staff will draft up a brief memo of why we're deciding to give these to the people we are. We held interviews with these people. We have this experience. Staff can tell you that these people have been good stewards of the land in the past. We're encouraging that. We're encouraging new farmers and we're encouraging responsible stewardship. So I'll be able to dress it up as a nice thing that we are doing because this is a good thing. So I think we've kind of got 4 of these fields. We have an idea of what we want to do with. I'll schedule interviews with the other 4 folks who were interested in potentially having on the other 4 fields for the week after Thanksgiving. And then I will, if we want to go together to see the fields, the other 4 fields next week, I'll put together a doodle poll tomorrow morning and send it out, see times that'll work for some people, and we can go from there.
Good. Thank you.
That sounds good.
Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. So we have a plan with that.
Consensus on that. Yeah, good.
Okay.
All right. Any other topics we want to be bringing up today? Or that we want to talk about for future, did we ask this, future agenda items?
We'll want to, for January, we'll want to start thinking about the Farmers Forum, because the Farmers Forum, amazingly, it is almost gonna be March again, in only 4 months. So that happens quick. And so in January, we're going to want to plan what we want to do for the Farmers Forum, and figure that out. And if Alex doesn't want to take the responsibility of making it happen again, then you don't have to. But I really enjoyed the food that you got last time, and I think you did a great job.
That I
putting
can
it together.
facilitate. Whether or not
So-
it's effective at actually setting up, that's a separate discussion.
I would like to hear a little more about what the objective, I know you've been having the Farmers Forum for some years, but what is the objective of that? Where are we going with it? And that would be helpful to me as sort of a coming into as a newbie, an oldie newbie.
Alex, you want to answer that or
Sure.
respond to it? I don't mean answer it, but
Yeah,
give
no.
Terry a sense.
Like it's open for anyone, but the general objective of the Farmers Forum is to bring farmers of not only the town but surrounding areas. We've seen some people come out, and kind of share their perspective, and it's a way to kind of sit across the table from members of the town and other organizations, such as Taste of Mansfield, and groups such as that. And just kind of keep them in the know, but also speak to some extent without it turning into a mob about policy recommendations, and things like that. Like our last forum was actually pretty good about even talking about, what requires a permit, what doesn't, and there being a mutual opportunity for explanation and understanding by both farmers and the town.
Was this the meeting you had at the corner of Highway 32 and is it South Eagleville Road?
Was that, yeah, that's technically where that was, right? The library?
Chris, I know you were there.
Or not the library.
I think he's, I'm thinking
was
it's
that
the Lennard Center
Yeah,
is what Terry's saying. And
That's a different place.
anyway,
Okay.
but I think, Alex pretty much put it together. It's basically people who are pursuing a common thing, and have different ways of going about it. And what are the issues you're encountering and how are you handling them? And, in our town, we've done this, or the zoning people realized that, and we helped them understand that this needed to be changed. And so that gives it's reinforcing because you're getting together with people with like goals, and like challenges.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
Good. All right. Anything else anybody needs to bring up for the good of the order here? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Okay, Ray has moved to adjourn. Any seconds?
Second.
Terry has seconded it. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Hey.
All right, great. Thank you all very much for tonight. Michael, thank you particularly for keeping track of everything and sharing your screen so ably. It's great.
Well, we get a lot of practice here in the planning department, so
Yeah.
happy to help. I'll get those meetings set up. You'll see some emails coming in from me tomorrow morning.
Good.
And we'll schedule some follow-up meetings, and we'll get this figured out by early December.
Thank you.
Good.
Excellent.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good night,
Sure.
gentlemen.
Have a good tea day.
You as
You
well.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.